Welcome to another episode of Distory. My name is Kirk from Walrus Carp, and with me, as always, is the clever, inspirational, and intelligent Kate the Disney Cicerone. Tonight, we are diving back into the Walt Disney World queue as we barely stepped up the ramp. I'm sure we'll have to go backwards, but we're basically walking into the upstairs platform of Walt Disney World. There are so many little tiny details that we're going to go over. I'm praying that we can actually get close to, if not just stepping foot onto the ride. I think that's probably where we land tonight. Kate, how we doing this evening?
I'm doing really good. I think that I was so excited to get to this point in the queue because there were so many things that I didn't know about. And the interesting thing about digging into this is that there's not a lot of information out there. There's a lot of like the highlights of the queue of the things you can interact with, but there's not a lot of details about what is in the queue, what are the little hidden secrets and gems and history. So I'm almost thinking like we might be the first ones to ever actually do a thorough analysis of this queue. So that's pretty exciting.
Dude, listen. First of all, I love the person who wrote on the comments that they like putting my face to the sarcasm because they finally saw what I look like, which means that there's a lot of people who are just auditory listeners of our entire podcast, which is really cool. But don't you think that's what we do every week is we look at stuff that nobody's ever looked at ever and been like, hey, this is actually somewhat interesting, or no, I'm going to pass on this podcast episode because I'm asleep. Or maybe that's a good thing. This is great. Forget melatonin. We got you covered.
Yeah, it's true. With really obscure facts that you didn't know you needed, but now you can't get away from. So that's what we do here at Distory.
I swear, there was my kiddos this last trip to Magic Kingdom. When we were going through each one of the queues, we were talking about Everest, and in Big Thunder, my kids are walking up to Big Thunder. My littlest goes, "Daddy, does Big Thunder like have a story?" Because like Everest has like a crazy story. So I'm trying to give the truncated version.
Yeah.
And they go, it's not as good as Everest because Everest had like so much more details. I said, we were in that queue for 40 minutes. I had plenty of time to talk about it. Trust me, there's a lot more for Big Thunder. We literally ran through it in 45 seconds. And they were like, okay.
So your assignment is to go watch the Apple Dumpling Gang with your girls. Because I just literally today watched it with my family. Because I was like, I need you to understand what's happening in this queue and where they get the inspiration for a lot of this. And it's the Apple Dumpling Gang. And it's on Disney Plus if you want to go watch it. So easy to access. But a lot of the things you see in the queue have tie-ins to that movie. So that might help them a lot.
Nice.
Yeah. So, well, shall we dive in with our very first, where we left off last week was we were walking up the ramp into Big Thunder, but we didn't quite make it into the mining structure building there. So
right. We had stopped basically at the same point in Caddyshack where it's, what's that sign say? No bare feet. Not that part. No fighting. What's it mean? No fighting.
Yeah. So there's a sign that says no drinking, fighting, or whistling, no kidding, proceed with caution, Big Thunder Mining Company. And I actually read something interesting and I feel like this might have been in the Jason Sorrell Mountains book, but it is a bit of a nod to the whistle while you work from Snow White, which I never really considered that before. But it's like, you're not allowed to whistle while you work here, which I don't know for sure if that was intended, but it's a kind of an interesting parallel to draw between where it all started and, of course, then Big Thunder. So,
you know how annoying that would be in a mine? In a mine. In a mine.
Like echoing.
Because, it'd be just like rattling off I think that's the reason.
Yeah.
Although they were in a mine and all they do is whistle while they work. So, whatever.
I mean, it's not like they're already making loud sounds in there. So it's not like it's quiet in the mine. It's like they're using pickaxes and stuff.
Right? I'm swinging a pitchfork over here. I don't need anything else.
A pitchfork? You mean a pickaxe?
Whatever, a pickaxe. That's what I meant. I was trying to bale hay,
That's maybe why you haven't struck gold yet, Kirk.
Dude, I think I have a lot more problems than that. I also buy magic beans if anybody has any. So I've got a cow that I'm dying to get rid of.
I love it. All right. So past the sign, you walk up the ramp. There really isn't a whole lot there. Just walking up that little mini ramp, you're kind of getting a close-up view of the structure that has the winches that we already kind of talked about the last episode. So I don't think we need to get into that more. So you'll see some mining equipment, and then you're starting to turn the corner. And so this first section of the queue is the foreman's office. That's what it's meant to be. So this is all an office for the mining company. Do you want to talk about the paymaster window a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So there's a paymaster window where you drop a tag at the end of your shift. So on the back end of this, we'll actually see a cage. We talked about Barnabas T. Bulletin. You'll see a cage with all of these little metal tags on it. So that would be your worker or employee tag, and that would be your proof that you actually worked that day. Are those real ones?
Yeah, so these are real ones that I found from a mine. And at this one, each miner would mark his entrance to the mine by placing a numbered tag over a hook. And so this is how they knew which miners were down in the mine. So not only was it like you get paid, but also was for safety in case there was a cave-in, they knew who was down in the mine.
It reminds me of like the lockout keys they do on ride procedures. So if anytime somebody is on the track, they have those lockouts and they know not to disembark the attraction, although they're now mechanically attached to, so you can't physically do it until somebody locks back in.
Right.
You were talking about the miners. How old do you have to be to work in these mines? Did you find that?
I do know that they did have children that have worked in mines before, but in terms of like, I feel like I found more about coal mining than I did about gold mining.
Yeah.
So I think it's usually like teenagers
And kids.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I can't believe they let minors work at this place.
I should have known you were setting up for that.
It is so dumb. I don't know why you let me do this every single time.
Because I'm here for the history. But
yeah, I know you are.
You come with a package deal, so it's fine.
It always happens. All right, can I talk pay rates?
Yes, please.
Okay. So next to those miners tags, you'll notice that there are I'll flip this around so I can just look at you guys. There are all of these different pay rates for the various jobs that you would have in the mines. So a lot of them are leadership based. So the foreman, the boss of all bosses, $10.84. That's per day. And then there's a shift boss. Then there's some of these I had to look up to see what they would be.
Yeah.
So a shaftsman is someone that uses the equipment to make mine shafts or air shafts. So basically all of like the heavy drilling or presses or hoists, any of like think of this almost as like a modern day like crane operator, which is again why you have a $2.38 per day rate. Right below that is skips. Now, skips are the people who brought mined materials to the surface of the mine shaft. So imagine all the like debris and stuff, the ore. The skips were the ones who would bring those up. Then you have helpers. Obviously, these are like more just like manual labor. You have miners. Again, these are, manual labor jobs. So like helpers help the skips. Miners are the ones that are actually breaking apart things. Boss is the person who's in charge of all those people that are in the mine. Carmen are the ones that are moving the actual mine cars themselves. A mucker is someone who shovels rock into said mine cars. I didn't know what a mucker was.
Well, kind of like if you muck out like a horse stall. So that makes sense if you're shoveling something.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're just shoveling rocks instead of shoveling other rocks.
Move on.
And then there's fusers, which are they're the second least. They make $1.94. There's also people that make $1.40, $1.43. So for $1.94, a fuser would be the ones that lay and ignite all fuses. Get excited.
Okay, so there's a couple of little secrets to that are embedded in this, because not only at the bottom you see the name of the foreman, which is G. Willikers, which is just supposed to be funny, pun name, but the interesting part is at the top of this, it says, pay rates shall not be disclosed. For paymasters' eyes only, daily salary will be held for board, house, and company store payments. So the interesting part about this is that the foreman is making pretty much double what the shift boss is, and he's essentially making twice as much as the highest person. So he is hiding it by only letting the paymaster see. So he's actually kind of cooking the books so that he can get paid way more than anybody else. And that is intentional for that.
Well, duh. Like, who wouldn't want to do that, you know? I mean, so hang on. How much is the foreman getting paid again? It's
$10.84.
$10.84 in today's money would be worth roughly $266.98 per day.
And that's daily, yeah, daily pay allowance.
Yeah. What's so funny about that too is, again, we're going to see this a little bit later on, where all the money basically goes directly back to the company. So you have to buy all of your supplies
for that.
You have to do your betting, like all of this. So like that little line that says basically all the money is being like escrowed for you before you can actually accrue it yourself. That's another little fun piece. So clearly,
let's talk about that in a minute, because I have so much to say about that. But I don't.
I just wanted to touch on it. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on it.
Yes, but it's important to point
because that line's in there, you know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do you have anything else for the pay rates here before we travel on to the next thing?
Gee Willikers, that's a lot if you're a foreman.
He's getting paid. So there's a sign on the wall that says T.W. Bullion Silver Mine, Virginia City, Nevada. Notice, be on the lookout for these two claiming to be metallurgists, I think is how you say that, fouled up our whole operation and took off with 10 pounds of lead, complete incompetence.
I think it's a metallurgist.
Metallurgist, that makes sense. So metallurgist is a professional responsible for extracting, processing, molding, and combining metals. So somebody who would be very highly skilled at that. So these, they would have like very extensive knowledge of engineering, mining, manufacturing, and knowing how to extract gold from ore. So that's what these guys were claiming to be. But these guys look an awful lot like Don Knotts in Tim Conway, which is, they look like the guys from the Apple Dumpling Gang from 1975. And of course, we talked about that's where the mine tailings that are in the queue and outside of Big Thunder here in Walt Disney World, they came from the same mine where they filmed this movie. So there's also another tie-in there. But so these two made up the Hash Knife outfit, which was essentially, they were very like incompetent team of people who tried to rob banks and hold up people, and they don't know what they're doing. It's a funny movie if you get to watch it. But they're going to show up again in the queue as well.
I would say they're pretty dumb if they're stealing 10 pounds of lead and they're thinking that it's valuable. They're clearly not metallurgists. Ooh, hang on. We got to do a side by side.
I forgot I had this picture. Here's a picture of Don Knotts and Tim Conway. But you can see them there, and you can see their iconic hats, and they're just definitely them. So really fun.
Yeah, it's obviously them, yeah.
Reference to them. So I also found, while I was doing this, while I was watching the Apple Dumpling Gang with my family, which I hadn't seen in eons, I found something that we found in Disneyland's queue in Rainbow Ridge. Do you remember we saw I think it's Lotta, the miner's darling, like the opera singer poster? Mm-hmm. Okay, so just to refresh your memory, this is what it looks like in Disneyland, up on the Mercantile in Rainbow Ridge. There's a poster for this. Well, I found it while I was watching the Apple Dumpling Gang. The exact same posters hanging up in the saloon.
Oh, wow. There's a lot of carryovers to this film. I like this connection. Now I need to watch the film, because that is definitely a film that's not on my like radar of must see. Now I feel like with the Big Thunder connections, I need to watch this.
Well, there's two of them, so I'm going to watch the second one. I've never seen this.
Oh, great. Now I need to watch a saga? All right, dude. Like, I was like giving you 45 to an hour max. Now I got to go like Lord of
Start
the
with
Rings,
the first
like
one.
9
As long
hours.
as you do the first one. It's kind of like Tron, how you told me just to watch the newer Tron and not the older one, because that would be enough. And I feel like it's the same way with Apple Dumpling Gang.
I was gonna say, like, I mean, I'm not that hungry for apple dumplings. You know, I only need one. I'm glad it's a good film. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Don Knotts when I was a kid and watched very. You know what? He's kind of like the Jim Carrey of that era of film because of his facial features. He was like the original rubber man of doing hijinks and like we're like really
very physical
wild
comedy. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Slapsticky.
Indeed. So near this this little notice is a stove that's in the corner, and I went down the rabbit hole for this stove.
Dude, on stoves? All right. Let's get warm. Let's learn about them.
Well, at first I was like, it's just an antique stove. And I was like, no, that's not what we do here at Distory. We don't just gloss over the details. So this is a stove that is a round oak stove. And I had a really hard time identifying this. And I found out why. These stoves were manufactured in Dowagiac, Michigan. And the Dowagiac Area History Museum, you can actually pay them $25 to identify your stove because there's so many of these round oak stoves that were manufactured. It's almost impossible to identify them. So I did go down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out what they were. And this one is actually fairly close, but it's a lot wider. And you can tell on the top there, above the round oak sign, there is numbers. This one says 1803. On the one that is in the corner, it's hard to see in this picture, but it's 1403. So that 14 refers to the size of the barrel of the stove. O is the model, and a 3 would be kind of like the number of ones that were made, like the era of ones that were made. What I'm trying on with the
was it like a version? Like
like 2.0.
Model number.
Yeah, those kinds of things. So this one is the O3s were made somewhere between 1917 and 1920. So interestingly enough, this one probably is not accurate to the time period, even though it looks fairly. I mean, nobody's going to look at that and be like, "Oh my gosh, that's like not the 1800s." But
I mean, I will now. I'll be like, "You imposter stove, get out of here!"
And the interesting thing is, this one doesn't actually have in the corner. Doesn't have really anything on top of it. It just is sort of plain. But a lot of these stoves actually did have these like super ornamental tops to them. You can see they have these little kind of golden tops that they stuck on them. This is a different model.
In college, I loved stovetop. So cheap, dude. It's like less than $1 a box. I found this one just like at an antique store and the description of this is not related at all to Big Thunder, but it was hilarious. And I just want to give props to whoever wrote this copy because it says, whether you're prepping for the apocalypse or just getting cozy, this epic wood stove has you covered. And doesn't it just look like it's about to come to life and start singing Be Our Guest? I was like, I mean, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, it has a mind of its own.
Yeah.
They are very cool looking.
They are indeed. So this is you can say it's a round oak wood stove. Probably.
But what was our year again? 19 something?
Between 1917 and 1920.
Boo that stove.
Because I did look at the ones that were from the late 1800s, and they were way different ornamentation, and there's just no way that was the right wood stove. So it for sure is closer, like after World War I. Wrong time pyramid, but...
I'm going to put a Post-it note on that says, "This is the wrong stove." They'll be like, who is this person putting this Post-it note on it?
Literally nobody cares but us, but it's fine. It's fine.
Signed G. Willikers.
G. Willikers. Love it.
I need like like an apple dumpling gang member. I'll just use, and then they'll be like, this person's crazy. They're a crazy person.
Anyway, that's all the stove history I could find. I mean, I could go on for a long time about stoves, but I feel like that's all probably.
Really? You could go more?
Because I did a lot of research trying to find it and like figure out it. It's really hard to identify them, and it made me mad that I couldn't. So that's as close as I got.
I don't know, dude. You nailed the company, you nailed the time period roughly, you nailed roughly the model number. I don't know. I think Except for spending $25, you did everything
I
you
know.
could do.
Maybe that's my next step.
Hi, everybody. Kate's next video content will pay for identifying a stove so she can have closure.
I paid $25 just to know what this prop was in the Big Thunder Mountain queue.
I feel like the comments are just, what's wrong with you?
I already get that anyway, so it's fine. It's fine.
You might as well get paid for it.
It's true. That is true.
Okay.
Alrighty, I'm ready to move on. Shall we move on to the safe?
Yeah, let's move on to the safe. I think this is on the safe. Is the United States Mineral Land Grant on the safe?
Yeah, it's on the left-hand side.
Okay. Can I do that one?
Yes.
You've been talking about stoves for a while. So.
I do have a picture of the safe before it was installed, too, just FYI.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, it's so big.
Yep.
And inside, it's filled with pretty much just like big, giant gold nuggets. And for the longest time, it had fiber optic lighting that would sparkle. And no, but it like went away for a while, and it just came back when you were down. Like literally a week
I was
before
excited
that.
to see it.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't see it on the gold bars though. I only saw it on the gold rocks.
They don't glisten. Just the gold.
Well, the bars used to.
The
bars used to. Mm-hmm. I have a video of it. Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous. What a
Yep.
world.
Yeah.
They stole it from us.
They stole our gold.
Okay, so on the left-hand side is the Mineral and Land Grant from the United States of the District of Columbia, and this is number 1980, which I think is interesting because number 1980, I'm guessing they're going with when Big Thunder opened. That's what we're going with. And it does say that it is signed all of the mineral rights to this land valley, this Western River Valley, including Thunder Mountain and Big Thunder Mountain, which is roughly 340 acres of land. And it's signed by the one and only Dark Horse James K. Polk.
Oh, yeah, Polk. I didn't have a picture of Polk.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. How do you not know who the Speaker of the House was in 1835 and 1839?
The reference to Western River Valley, of course, refers to the Western River Expedition, which was supposed to be in this spot. And we've talked a lot about that in this series of how that project got canceled. But that is a little nod to the Western River Expedition inside that notice.
I don't know why, but there was a song when I was a kid, and it was like, it was about James K. Polk, and it was like, James K. Polk, the Dark Horse President. And like, I don't know why it sticks in my head, but it was
really the
catchy.
Dark Horse President?
He was, dude. He wasn't supposed to win.
We already talked about the gold nuggets sparkling, and so up above this area is something that we've kind of shown a little bit of, but I think it's really important to point it out, is this painting. It is above the safe, and it contains every version of Big Thunder, including Thunder Mesa. So if you go kind of like from the brightest side, that is like the Thunder Mesa side, and then it kind of transforms to Big Thunder in Disneyland, Big Thunder in Disney World, and then we have Disneyland Paris and Tokyo are back there as well. So it's kind of an amalgamation of all of those Big Thunders that exist in the world, which is really neat way to display those. They also have up on the shelf, there's a coffee grinder, a canister, a coffee pot, some books, an open metal box with a lid, which I wasn't really sure what it was. I was trying to figure out what this was, but I'm not entirely sure. But this is kind of like things you would find in an office, right? For people who are working hard.
Those books are serious. Can you show the books with the bindings on it real quick?
Yeah.
They're ledger books. So that's that's like the foreman's ledger books.
Oh, and there must be a little jar of ink behind it. Do you see that little vial?
Yeah. That's yep. Mm-hmm.
No, that's so interesting.
Yeah, there you go. Look, they got like accounting ledger books, and I guess that's what it would look like on the inside.
Where the G. Willikers is cooking the books.
Yeah, dude, these are. Well, dude, doesn't it make sense? It's above the stove if he's cooking the books.
Oh,
he's cooking them. I Dude, do you think, like, there's got to be an etymology to cooking the books? Cooking the books came from the mid-17th century. It was a metaphor based on cooking where ingredients were changed, altered, improved, or falsely manipulated. So, like, if they didn't have the right stuff to make the food that you wanted, they could, like, finagle
substitute things and
right. So, like,
make it happen.
cooking the books.
All right. Well, shall we move around the corner?
Yeah, are we doing the posters? The two signs here? I got you. Two sign.
Okay. So here we see two signs. There's a red one. I got the red one. The red one and kind of a bluish green one. The red one says all miners are required to bunk on premises at Big Thunder Boarding House, no exceptions. Meal provided daily, baths weekly. A fee has been deducted from your pay for services rendered plus gratuity, and then it's Miss Liddy Stockley, proprietress. So that one is the red one. Do you want to read the other one? And then we can talk about the history of it a little bit.
BT Bullion Company Store. Miners are required to purchase mining equipment, clothing, and personal items from the company store. Non-company store supplies will not be permitted on Big Thunder Mining Company property. Fees deducted from earnings, all sales mandatory, all sales final. We appreciate your business. And then the best part is the manager on the bottom is costs a lot.
Cost us a lot. Cost
us a lot.
I love it. So also on the red one, I didn't mention, but Mrs. Liddy Stockley, that is a character in the Apple Dumpling Gang as well. So that's not another reference to it. I know.
She is another dumpling, dude.
So let's give these signs just a little bit of context, which Kirk kind of touched on a little bit earlier. But if you guys have ever heard the song, you load 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and a deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go out my soul to the company store. If you've ever heard that song, it's kind of referring to the situation, this time period in history. This was a song written by Merle Travis about a coal miner based on a life of the mines in Muhlenberg County, Kentucky. So it was also made popular by Tennessee Ernie Ford in 1955. So a lot of people know that version instead. But it's 16 tons refers to a practice of initiating new miners. So a miner tended to haul 8 to 10 tons per day. And when there was a new miner, the other miners would slack off so the new miner could make 16 on his first day. So it was a little bit of like hazing for miners. But the line, another day older and a deeper in debt, was a reference to the truck system debt bondage. So this is what Kirk kind of talked about with people kind of owing the company store. So under this script system, workers were not paid cash. Rather, they were paid with non-transferable credit vouchers that could be exchanged only for goods sold at the company store. So this is like, it's like you get a gift card for our company store, and that's the only way we're going to pay you. But we're also going to deduct rent, room and board, right? Like rent and food from your pay already. So we're going to get money for that. And then any other money that you want to spend on anything is going to come from this truck. I actually have one. This is what it looked like for one of the actual mines.
Welcome to what Disney refers to as the college program. And also, I don't know that song at all from any of the other iterations, although he probably sings the last one that you mentioned in Joe and the Volcano. That's how I know the song.
Yeah.
You ever see that movie?
Yeah.
Tom Hanks. Great film. But that's like the beginning. And he is exactly a worker bee drone in this succubus of an awful corporate office complex where nobody knows what they're doing, and it just like robs your soul, and there's no point in moving on.
Like, yeah, you can't get out of it. Once you're in it, you're permanently stuck because you can't earn actual money to get out. And so in the United States, the truck system and associated debt bondage lasted until the strikes of the United Mine Workers and other unions forced an end to such practices. They were just like, look, you can't not pay us real money and also force us to sleep and eat here and also buy all of our stuff. And so these posters are really interesting because it said you can only use equipment that is that you've purchased from our store. So they're not even allowed to buy mining equipment from another place. They can only be outfitted in the store. So definitely a nod to that script system, that truck system that was like super crooked back in the day, which makes sense for Barnabas T. Bullion, right?
Yeah, why would he not want to make more money?
I love that he's like, we appreciate your business at the end. It's like,
yeah,
they don't have a choice.
It's like it's mandatory and everything's finals. But thank you. But thank you for it.
Thank you. Come again.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what all those posters are referring to. And there are several nods to it all the way throughout the queue, just to give you some context so you can kind of be on the lookout for all of those kind of crooked mining practices back in the day.
Those crooked miners.
Anyway, that's all I have for those. Do you want to move on to, I guess we've got the assay report coming next.
Yes, let's look at the assay report.
I have the original computer concept art for it, which is fun.
Computer concept for a board.
It's not hand drawn. It's like clearly like computer.
It's like CAD.
generated. Yeah.
Okay, so on the assay report, it shows locations like Tumbleweed Tunnel, which is in reference to the town of Tumbleweed. It's only at 300 feet. Then it shows Shaft 19, Drift 8, Drift 66, 25, Spur Shaft, Gallery number 5, and the Rabbit Foot Fissure. Now, there are some reasons why some things have been closed or open, and this is going to actually allude to later on a flash flood. So the town of Tumbleweed, which is only at 300 feet, a flash flood, which we do see later on the attraction. Some are open, some are unknown, some are closed, some are tapped out, some are avalanche. And then I like the mother lode with 24, is that tons? Ounce/ton? I'm guessing it's 24 tons of gold is on drift number 66.
That's a lot. It's got to be ounces.
Yeah.
That
I don't
could
know.
be tons.
Ounces?
I don't think that much gold has ever been found in a single place, knowing gold. Like, you know, like just a couple of pounds of gold is considered a gigantic nugget. So it can't be tons.
Yeah, well, okay,
like,
but hear me out.
How many gold? No, listen.
Hear me out,
how many
dude.
ounces per ton? That's how many ounces per ton.
Okay.
See, it's how much gold they found per ton. They found 24 ounces per ton.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense because I was like, bro, it can't be 24 ounces. Nobody would even bother going to that place. That's like, what is that, like $11? No, that's actually a lot of money. But still, like, how much is what's the spot price on gold right now? It's about $2,100. So $2,100 times 24, hang on, math. It's like 50. It's like 50 something. Leave me alone, dude. I'm a history guy. Who said anything about math?
I'm not a math person. It's okay. I was trying to figure out these numbers on this assay board because I was trying to figure out if there was like specific numbers meant certain things, and it is possible that some of these numbers refer to maybe birthdays and things like that. That's a very, very common practice in WDI to kind of like insert maybe your children's birthdays or your birthday,
something
your
fun.
Stamp on it. The one that says 19. I think that these boards, because there's two that are next to each other, and I think one is related to the other in that the one that says 19, if you go to the one that's next to it, it says right across on the same line, it says number 80. So if you put those two together and it's 19 and it's 80, it's 1980 for the year that it opened, and they're all on the same line. So that doesn't seem like a coinky dink to me.
Coinky dink, she says.
But yeah, and then the one are we ready to go to the next one? I didn't want to move you forward.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. Yep.
So the next one at the top, it does have Moon Ridge is the first one. Moon Ridge number 2, comes right from the Apple Dumpling Gang.
Oh,
surprise.
Here we go.
Surprise. That's where
Apple
they find
dumplings.
well, I don't want to ruin for everybody, but they do go into that mine. They also go
great.
for
Now I don't want to see it.
But Moon Ridge number 2 comes from that. Also Rattler's Nest, I feel like that is very much a nod to Mine Trains or Nature's Wonderland, and Bat Cave, which we've talked about is a concept from Mark Davis that kind of got pulled from Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland and then put in Big Thunder. So I think that there's kind of a tie-in not only to that scene that we see in the attraction as a foreshadowing, but also as a nod to Mark Davis's bat concept. And then there's also there's drift number 13, which I think is interesting because that's the one where they have Tommy knockers. Do you want to talk about Tommy knockers? I feel like you were excited about that.
Oh boy, do I ever! First of all, there was a brewery that was called Tommy Knocker. It was the first time I ever heard the phrase before. But a Tommy knocker is folklore for, well, technically they were first called knockers, but in the U.S. they were called Tommy knockers. A mythical subterranean gnome-like creature in Cornish and Devon folklore. So it closely related to an Irish kind of leprechaun would be the best way to put it. And they were little creatures that were about 2 feet tall. I have a picture, yeah, with disproportionately large heads, arms, wrinkled skin, and white whiskers. And they were known for doing mischief in the mines, things like stealing tools and food. So in the 1820s, anytime somebody lost something in a mine, which, let's be honest, the people who are probably working in these mines are not necessarily the most honest of folk. So in a dark mine, if you leave something unattended and it goes missing, you can blame it on the Tommy knockers, when in actuality, it's probably just a person who ate your lunch. But Tommy knockers.
I'm just going to start blaming people for that, like just around the house. Be like, those Tommy knockers are at it again.
Yeah, well,
they lost my phone.
Sadly, those people are part of your family. So
it's probably
there you go.
Yeah, there he is.
Dwarves.
Yeah, so this happens in drift number 13, which would make sense because that's an unlucky number. So you would lose all the things and have the Tommy knockers doing their thing in drift number 13, which I think is fun.
Yeah, I love that.
Some other things that happen here, that Moon Ridge one has a cave-in, which actually is also a tie-in to the Apple Dumpling Gang. So I'm telling you, watch this movie if you like Big Thunder, because it all makes sense. They also have shaft number 80 is open. Behemoth Gorge has a strange smell, which is also foreshadowing to the ventilation room and things that will happen in some episodes that we're getting to. We're not quite there yet. The Rattler's Nest, I don't know if you saw this, Kirk, but it says bone dry. And do you think that that's possibly a reference to when they had the snake inside the bones for the dinosaur?
It could just be because remember we had 2 instances, not only the T-Rex, but also just like that deadly pond area that was all dried up, that was poisoned, the poisoned well. So like it could be either of those, you know what I mean?
Right. And that seems like that was the same spot too. So it just, to me, it was like, it seems like too much of a coincidence to not be related somehow, but
there's also like desert. There's also all over the place. There's like old bones and skulls of like cattle and stuff that are just even on the attraction itself. So like all of those things could be true. You know, we are in a desert.
Yeah. Then there's also number 37, which I couldn't find anything on. That one just says open. And then that one actually has the most gold per ton, ounces per ton on this particular board. And then there's a prospector's pit, which
says... That's so much. It's so much material to go through just to get a couple ounces of gold. But I mean, it totally works because it's a precious metal. It's crazy.
Yeah, you have to process a lot to get to it, unless you hit like a vein or like the bottom of an ancient waterfall. If I've learned anything from Gold Rush, that's where all the gold is. So you have to find where the ancient waterfall was.
Waterfalls.
Yeah. But then the prospector's pit reminds me of, remember how they had that little prospector's cabin that was in Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland that was like a miniature cabin? I wonder if that's related to it at all, if they took that kind of like obscure history, or it could just be prospector's pit because kind of like a gold mining term. That's also just possible. But I don't know. I like to make connections, so I like to think it's that. All speculation, of course.
That's 100% fact, and that's where they got it from.
No. that's all I have for the essay report, unless you have anything else.
This report is done.
Okay, moving on. So now we're going to take a deep breath because we head to the bulletin board.
There's so much stuff.
There is so much, and I don't think any of my notes are organized by the way I went about doing this, so I'm sorry.
Oh, great. I'm usually the one who's disorganized. So
I have a telegraph that was from July 1st. That's from the Big Thunder Mining Company telegraph office to Chase M. Down, sheriff from Tumbleweed. So obviously a pun there. And it says, word to the wise, Theodore Ogilvy and Amos Tucker may be headed your way. They used to ride with the Stillwell gang, but call themselves the Hash Knife Outfit. I wouldn't say they were dangerous, but if brains were dynamite, and then you can't read the rest of it. So that one is also the Apple Dumpling Gang. That's a reference. That's what the characters' names are, is Theodore Ogilvy, and Amos Tucker is the Hash Knife Outfit. So,
I mean, talk about beat a dead horse. Like, why don't you just write the whole movie into this thing?
Well, do you want to talk about the wanted poster that's right underneath it? Because that's also Apple Dumpling Gang. So the wanted poster says, wanted for attempted bank robbery, chicanery, skullduggery, tomfoolery, and habitual bungling. The Hash Knife Outfit, which is the Apple Dumpling Gang. Theodore Ogilvy, 51 years old, weight 135 pounds, 5 foot 7 inches tall, bulging eyes, sweaty brow, nervous disposition. And then Amos Tucker's 42 years old, weight 152 pounds, 5 foot 6, brown eyes, fleet of foot, slow of wit, traveling by mule, reward of $50 or $25 each. And then there's some words at the bottom that is Homer McCoy, Sheriff, Quake City, California, which is where this movie takes place, is Quake City, California. But also, by the way, Apple Dumpling Gang was partially filmed in Oregon, in Deschutes County, and in Bend. So I was happy to see it. I was like, oh, it's Oregon.
So I just think this is fun to look at words. So I did look up, because I was just curious what chicanery and skullduggery are, because chicanery, I'm probably going to have to use these now in my normal vernacular.
These sound like your words.
Yeah, chicanery is the use of trickery to achieve a political, financial, or legal purpose. And skullduggery is underhanded or unscrupulous behavior or trickery, which I am into skullduggery.
I think you're into bungling.
I do that normally. That's my normal bungling.
Anyway, so two things right next to each other for the Apple Dumpling Gang. Again.
If you're playing any sort of game, you have to drink when Kate says Apple Dumpling Gang. Then you're in trouble.
At the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, just insert this. If you're playing along and you're an adult.
Right underneath that poster, the wanted poster, is I think it's Sand Pelt Furs and Wool Co. I don't have a great picture of it. That's the best picture I have. That's Sand Pelt Furs and Wool Co. And it has a raccoon, which to me is very much a nod to the coonskin caps for Davy Crockett, which has a huge tie back into Frontierland. But it says practical furrier, tailor, and taxidermy specialist, manufacturers of fine furs, wools, pelts, and rawhides. But I don't think I can read any of the other words on this. Oh, it does say the old mill at the bottom. Located something, something, something near the old mill. And the old mill, of course, was the very first silly symphony in Disney history to ever use the multiplane camera. It was kind of like what they used to try out the multiplane camera before they used it for Snow White. So the old mill is a silly symphony. My next thing I have is a letter with SEA letterhead, which I think might actually be on the second one.
Jason Chandler?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is a letter addressed to Barnabas T. Bullion, founder and president of Big Thunder Mining Company in Tumbleweed. It says, Dear Barney, great Caesar's ghost, old chap. I haven't heard from you since our little misadventure in El Dorado. I'm indeed sorry to hear of the recent disturbances within Big Thunder Mountain, but I did warn you that you were prospecting at your own peril when I sold you the drilling machine. I took the liberty of consulting Madame Zarkov at the Museum of the Weird, and it's her considered opinion that you should abandon the entire operation at once and find a less volatile site. I wish I had better news for you, old boy, but some forces simply are not to be trifled with. On behalf of your compatriots at SEA, I do hope to see you around the club a bit more often. Yours in exploration and adventure, Jason Chandler. And it says founding member of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, but he was not actually a founding member, so that is incorrect. The Society of Explorers and Adventurers was founded in 1538 by inventors and explorers, including Leonardo da Vinci, so way before his time. There's also a couple references in here that are really interesting, including Great Caesar's Ghost, which is a reference to the Caesar that's in the Haunted Mansion ballroom, that's seated at the table of the ballroom. They also have SEA is canon to Indiana Jones, meaning the reference of El Dorado could connect to the lore of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So that's a possibility. Madame Zarkov, we already talked about in a previous episode, who's a character from the Museum of the Weird from Raleigh Crump. And I feel like there's another one as I was reading this. Oh, Misadventure. That would be Misadventure Falls, right?
Yes.
Which is another SEA reference. This letter is just jam-packed with Society.
Dude, I've got to get to Typhoon Lagoon and start taking pictures because I've never been on that attraction ever because you need to have friends for it, and I have that problem where you need to have like more than what. Like I'm not just going to get in a random giant big raft, but I feel like I need to just to see. There's an audio animatronic on it too. Like I'm missing out. I need to get on it.
I want to go see it, but I don't want to go swim, so I'm stuck.
I imagine for some reason that if you went to Typhoon Lagoon, you'd be in one of those 1920s like bathing caps, you know, like the suits, like the actual suits, so like a big old like a bath, you know, the head thing, and then like a full all the way down past your knees thing.
Cover my ankles for propriety.
Right, exactly. Yeah, dude, you want to be proper, right?
I could get behind the swimming costume. I'm all for that. I do have.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So I have a swim dress with swim pants, so you're really not that far off for that.
There you go.
You called that one. So I have a note that says, attention all minors, payments will not be made in advance, no matter what trouble you are in with the law. Big Thunder Mine Paymaster. I have a telegraph that says, to Big Thunder Mining Company, Tumbleweed, August 16th, 3 cents, and I couldn't read who it was from. And it said, I hear you are close to finding more gold. I have something at a moment's notice to assist. It's time this mine had something maybe paid out. And something I didn't mention from that Jason Chandler letter is we did talk about this in the episode of the extinct attraction that was going to be Discovery Bay, kind of next to Big Thunder, where they talks about his drilling machine and whatnot. But that was really a tie-in with the original Discovery Bay concept that was with Big Thunder, which we really covered a lot in a previous episode, so I'm not going to get into it. But some of these things are nods to the idea of, you know, if you're drilling, you're going to get into trouble because you're disturbing the spirits in the mountain, and then they're not going to like it, and then there's going to be trouble. So that's what a lot of these are.
I've got the G. Willikers one.
Okay, go for it.
So it says, from this day forward, all miners caught taking an early lunch will be put on the graveyard shift permanently. From G. Willikers, foreman. So don't take an early lunch.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty big punishment for just taking an early lunch. There's a note from Deborah Mack that says, found 1 boot, 2 hats, and a shovel on the direct road leading out of town. Will be held at boarding house.
Well, there's another one of somebody leaving town from Quake City to AJ Copland, Big Thunder Mining, Telegraph, Tumbleweed. I'll be on the next train to Santa Fe. I've had enough of this crazy town. Pray that nothing follows me home. Jennifer Stanley, October 27th.
Yeah, so Quake City is an Apple Dumpling Gang town. But the rest of those names...
Why don't you just call this the Apple Dumpling Mine Train?
I'm sorry, I didn't make the attraction.
You should have texted me a bit like, watch the Apple Dumpling. It's only the entire episode and from everything moving forward. No, I'm just kidding. I'll watch it.
Figured it out from that initial like poster of the two of them. So,
dude, I didn't know who those goons were. I was like, I don't know, probably skullduggery, chicanery nonsense. I don't know what they're into.
I think it's chicanery.
Chicanery.
Alrighty. I have one.
Chicanery.
So can we talk about the patent for the train brakes? That is the actual patent for the actual train brakes for Big Thunder, and it says 1877, but it's actually 1977 was when the patent was made, so they just bumped it back 100 years. And it says T.W. Baxter, though it was not actually patented by Tony Baxter, but I think it's just a nod to him on this. I also have the other patent is for mine ventilation. So that one would be, that is right below there, and it says C.R. Runco, which is Chris Runco, which we mentioned in our Jungle Cruise series. If you remember that giant creature that was on the map in the Skipper Canteen, it was called Runco.
He was the one that drew that. I
don't remember, but he had concept art for Jungle Cruise. But he was the one who made the model for Big Thunder with foot grids. And he also made the goat. He was in charge of that audio animatronic. And he's also the one that made what we know as DJ Rex now. He was the same Imagineer that did that.
I like, so we see these later on in the queue. These are Jay Olson's Subterrascope, which is kind of like a periscope, but it's supposed to go underground. I don't know if this thing actually exists, the Subterrascope, but
I don't think so. I think that's why it has a patent, because they kind of invented it. So I will say John Olson was one of the two brothers in the Civil War era scene in the photo for the American Adventure. If you've heard that song, like, two brothers that, went off to war and whatnot, it was Imagineers John Olson and Jeff Burke. So you have probably seen John Olson if you've ever seen that show before. But his name is on the patent for that.
This was a can telescope patent. Includes a can being a container having a front end, a back end, and removable lens cap at the back end. Structure slides from one end to the other. It kind of reminds me of like those old school, I don't know, like, do you remember like the ones that like kids could have?
Yeah.
But this looks like it was made out of soda cans.
I have another telegraph that's August 18th from T. Aosa Shundry, which I was like, what name is that? But I couldn't find it anywhere. Big Thunder Boarding House Tumbleweed from Joy M. Rappel was visited again last night at my wit's end. Send mother's nerve calming tonic. Don't tell her why. So that one definitely seems like it's tied in with the kind of snake oil salesman from Tumbleweed. So I feel like it's more foreshadowing for what's going to happen in Tumbleweed. This is all kind of like the community boards giving us a little bit of context of what to expect or what is happening over there in the town of Tumbleweed. I have one that is an express telegraph. So it's a different telegraph company. The Express Telegraph Company express message from Savannah, Georgia on March 16th to Big Thunder Mountain Print and Press Shop. It says, thank you for sending me your prints. They've inspired me to take a trip and see this mountain you keep talking about. I leave tomorrow and will arrive in Tumbleweed sometime before the end of the month, and it's signed Cynthia Partridge, which is another one I couldn't find.
Again, it's like, I don't know there's got to be significance. Please, Imagineers or people who know more than us, let us know. Please.
I tried. I passed everybody I know. There's a telegraph from the Great Western Telegraph and Cable Company, received at Big Thunder Mining Company September 11th. Antonio Castellan, Brentley, Elrod, and BB Fleck says, hi, boys. It's been quiet in this one-horse town without y'all around. When you think you're heading back this direction, hope it's real soon. And it's signed WW Brandenburg, Taos, New Mexico. Another one from G. Willikers. It's a telegraph to G. Willikers. It says, I love to hear mine is doing well. I've got men here rearing to go dig gold. Didn't tell them about the trembling problems you have. And it's signed Ruthless Pete. There's a telegraph that is from February 25th to Mr. Foreman. It's signed March 3rd. Train to Tumbleweed shut down. We'll have to take stagecoach. It'll be there. I'll be there in 2 weeks, not 2 days. So that might also kind of allude to this idea of a flash flood, roads being washed out. I think that's all I have. Did you have any others?
Sandra Peters? I don't think we did that one.
Yeah. Okay. Go for it.
This one it says, to Jason Dennis Nelson of Tumbleweed. Dennis, I'm writing you to let you know that Kristen had her baby and positively lovely little girl that they've named Alexis. I look forward to joining you in our new home and a golden future. with this Big Thunder mining company. Love, Sandy.
Those definitely sound like names of like Imagineering kids, because Alexis and like those sound very much like modern names, not
like that's probably just like a baby announcement.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other things? Did I miss anything? I feel like there's so much. Yeah. Mm-mm. So there's a poster that says Boot Hill Layaway, and it says cave-ins, flash floods, bad beans. Life of a miner is fraught with perils. Don't be caught unprepared. Boot Hill Layaway. So then they show their rates and fees. A speedy funeral is $10. A proper funeral is $30. With mourners is $35. Plot with a view is $42. A grave alarm is extra, in case you want them to be like, hey, because there was that problem of people's fear of being buried alive. So a grave alarm was essentially like a little bell with a string that you could like pull, be like, hey, I'm still alive in here. It says bring suit, boots, and body. And then it's UB Underhill, Tumbleweed Cabinet and Casket Company. So UB is kind of like the train names. That's a little pun there. And then the cave-ins and flash floods, of course, is foreshadowing to the rest of the ride. But then the poster next to it is the one I'm like, I really should get to before we head into the explosives room. And this one is the butterfly stage line, which you guessed it, is another connection to the Apple Dumpling Gang, because they have the butterfly stage line stagecoaches in that movie. And it says ride on the wings of a butterfly from St. Louis to San Francisco in just 3 weeks. Stages of Butterfly Stage Line leave St. Louis daily at 6 a.m. for San Francisco via Fort Smith, El Paso, Thunder Mesa, Fort Concho, Rainbow Ridge, Quake City, and Tumbleweed, connecting at Tumbleweed with the San Francisco and Carrollwood Pacific Railroad Company.
Woo!
Yeah.
Get excited if you love Walt Disney and his trains.
Through tickets from St. Louis to San Francisco are $200. Thunder Mesa to Rainbow Ridge is $10. Quake City to Tumbleweed is $3. And then it's signed Colonel T.R. Clydesdale, founder and president, which again is a character from Apple Dumpling Gang. Surprise, surprise. But I'm sorry, Kirk, it just is. So, Rainbow Ridge, of course, is from Disneyland in its queue, and from that original Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland. Tumbleweed is the town here in Big Thunder in Walt Disney World. Quake City was from the Apple Dumpling Gang. Thunder Mesa was what was supposed to be in the spot before it wasn't, and then Carrollwood Pacific Railroad is Walt Disney's railroad from his backyard. So awful lot of tie-ins from a whole bunch of different trains history for the Butterfly Stage Line from the Apple Dumpling Gang. I'm sorry. I should have told you to watch it. I didn't even think of it. I'm so sorry.
If I had a nickel, if I had an ingot for every time Kate said Apple Dumpling Gang, seriously, from here on out, you have to say ADG. So I don't have to hear Apple Dumpling Gang again. The ADG.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm never watching that film now.
No, you have to watch
interest.
It. You need to watch it. It has a lot of lamps in it.
He's okay. Well, now you know where to get me.
Honestly, I think that might be where some of our lamps gonna come from. So, but I'm not gonna say it. I won't say it again.
They could be straight up like leftover props. You know what I mean? Because that happens frequently. So
yeah. So I feel like that's where we should pause. As much as I want to go and talk about the amazing things that are in the Explosives magazine room, I just think we're out of time for this week. I think that's all we can do.
I am blown away that we've gotten maybe 140 feet. We have literally walked down one way, made a left, made another left, made a quick right, quick left, quick right, quick left, and we stopped. It's literally 150 feet max.
Yep. There's so
queue,
much in this queue.
If it's packed, probably 4 minutes.
But anyway, shall we wrap it up?
I think we should pull this train into the station.
Okay. Alrighty, well, thank you everybody for joining us for this episode of Distory. Even though we only got a little ways into the queue for Big Thunder, we hope that you appreciate some of the details and the history and the references to the apple dumpling gang that we found along the way. Kirk, do you have any final thoughts as we wrap up?
I will never watch that film.
Yes, yes, you will. Alrighty, well, thank you everybody for joining us. We appreciate you being here for Distory, and we will see you next time for more of the queue of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.